Hello, fitness business nerds. It's Michael, and I have a super important message. I hope you're ready. Our enrollment for Unicorn Society is now open. We only do this twice a year, and this is the moment you've been waiting for if you want to work more closely with me and Mark and Pete and the rest of our Business for Unicorns team. Our Unicorn Society group is full of brick and mortar training gym owners. You have to have your own space. You're renting or owning your own space. You have to have some full-time employees. You have to have over 30 clients. So we really have a pretty high bar for who gets to come into this coaching group. But when you're in this coaching group, you get so much value, if I do say so myself. If you are looking for a coaching group where you get one-on-one time and attention with me and Mark and Pete, this is the group for you. And frankly, I've never been part of a more engaged, smarter, more dynamic group of fitness business owners. When you join Unicorn Society, you get up to 90 minutes of one-on-one coaching with me and Mark and Pete every single month. You can use that for just you and your business partner, you and your whole team. We will get on a phone or Zoom with you and talk about whatever you want us to talk about that helps move the ball forward in your business. You also get a quarterly retreat, 2 days every quarter to come in person or live via Zoom to meet with me and Mark and Pete and the rest of our team to do quarterly planning and goal setting. So that's 4 times a year. We get to meet in person if you want to, or on Zoom to do planning and things. You get access to something called Unicorn University, which is our online school that has scripts and tools and templates and courses for everything you could possibly need to run your training gym. Anyway, I could keep going. This could be a 20-minute commercial about Unicorn Society, but the most important thing for me to convey is that enrollment is open now, and you have until June 12th to get our early bird deal. So if you enroll between now and June 12th, you will save, I think, $100 a month off your enrollment, off your dues, which means you save $1,200 over the course of the year if you enroll before June 12th. We also will waive our initiation fees. We have a $600 initiation kind of onboarding fee for new members. We will waive that if you join by June 12th. That's hard to say. Here's what you need to know is wherever you're listening to this or viewing this, there's a link down below to join our Unicorn Society. There's an application, but it's a very quick and easy application process. And that's just to make sure that you're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for you. So go click it now and let's start working together right away. If you have any questions, email me, michael@businessforunicorns.com. Let's talk soon. Bye. Hello, fitness business nerds. Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Today, I'm here with Pete Dupuis. What's up, my friend?
Hey, Keeler. Nothing new to report. You're the one who's got a newly received degree since we last chatted.
It's true. It's true.
What's up with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, I feel great about it. For those of you who don't know, I just finished a master's degree in organizational psychology at Columbia, and it feels great to be done. I learned a lot. It was awesome. It was a really expedited 1-year program, and it was rad. And you'll be hearing more on this podcast about what I learned. But I just graduated last week, and it feels fucking great. So yeah, thanks, my friend.
Awesome. Huge congrats.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it's been a while since it's just been you and me. It feels so chill, just 2 people. But the topic I wanted to cover today is very topical because as of yesterday, so this is going to come out on a Monday, as of yesterday, we just opened enrollment for Unicorn Society, which for those of you who listen to this podcast know it's our our coaching group that we work with. We work one-on-one every day with all the members of the group, and we only open enrollment twice a year. So this is really everyone's last chance to apply and work with us before 2023, which sounds insane to say, right? But really, we only do enrollment twice a year. The next time not till January 2023. And so we thought we'd just pause and make sure everyone knows that, but also just use this as an opportunity to talk about, why we do that work. So the framing for today's conversation is that the reason we have a peer coaching group is because, Pete and I, and this goes for Mark and Ben as well, we really, really believe in the power of coaching, both one-on-one coaching and peer coaching, meaning learning from a single person or learning from a group. And we also really believe in the power of mentorship, which I think of as different but related to coaching. And I thought we'd talk about that today, because whether you, dear listeners, are interested in joining Unicorn Society or not, I think there's a real case to be made, and I hope we make it today, that you should think about getting a coach, or you should think about being part of a coaching group or learning group, or you should think about having mentors in your life to learn from, because that is often the best way, at least I found, to continue growing and learning as a business owner and entrepreneur. So that's what we're talking about today. Let's just start with this, Pete, which is just speaking from a personal perspective. What experience have you had learning from coaches and mentors in your life?
Well, look, I was almost late to today's recording because the EO event that I was attending was a lunch that ran a little long, and I spent 2.5 hours of my Tuesday focusing on improving my understanding of and strategy for creating a value prop. And so the reason that this is interesting to me is because, well, I look for my coaching outside of the industry purely because I selfishly siphon off coaching from you and Fisher and Ben all the time. I mean, I will occasionally listen to our podcast just to hear what we sound like, and I find that I'm routinely looking for coaching in these recordings, and I'm pretty transparent about that. And I feel like I've checked that box within our industry, but I go outside of it often. I mean, I have a monthly mastermind with two other individuals, one of which is in insurance, and the other one is she owns and operates her own marketing or firm agency. Nothing to do with fitness. I'm out looking for wisdom from those people on our recurring Zoom calls, and I'm attending things like EO, and I'm searching for mentorship in multiple places all the time. So it's definitely a huge part of my day-to-day kind of personal development, continuing ed.
Yeah, it's huge. Well, Mark and I, as you know, and listeners might know, we've also have been members. Mark still is a member of EO, which stands for Entrepreneur Organization. Do you want to just say a little bit about like what that is, Pete? Not that this is a commercial for EO, because it's probably actually not right for many of our listeners. But in terms of like what the purpose it serves in your life, can you just say a little more about that?
Well, in this circumstance, I'm not currently a member of EO.
Got
I
it.
have been in the past in my career. I was a guest of our on-site physical therapist, Andrew Millett, and so he sees value as well. This is a guy who owns a physical therapy clinic called Move Strong PT, and Andrew's actually part of a mentorship group very similar to Unicorn Society within the realm of PT, and they do huge things, and he's also an EO member. And this is a forward-thinking guy who has very quickly gone from solo practitioner, one-man shop, to 2 and 3 full-time treatment scenarios at a time. He has virtual assistants. He has billing assistants. I mean, this is a guy who has scaled something, and he wouldn't have done it just reading books and listening to podcasts. So he said EO's got this value prop luncheon type deal. They can bring complimentary guests. So I jumped back into the EO world today, and my interpretation of it, best how he uses it, is he likes the networking. He likes to see how the operators of bigger operations are thinking strategically. Like I think he's of the mindset, if you put yourself in a room with big thinkers, you're going to think bigger thoughts. And so it's kind of how he plays up a level as far as how he thinks about the long-term development of his business.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, well, I'll just answer the same question for myself, which is I feel like I've had so many relationships with coaching and mentorship and peer groups over the years. So I was a member of the New York City branch of EO. There's actually 2 in New York City, I think. One of the New York City branches of EO. And the reason for that was the same reason, which is I wanted to be around other industry leaders, thinking big about how they scale and grow their businesses, hearing what their problems are and how they're thinking about solutions. And that was fun for me because it was outside of fitness. Right. Yep. And I think most of our listeners probably are not at the place where they need that as much as we have in our businesses, only just because of the sheer scale of both of our businesses, I know is unusual. But that idea of having a peer learning group that hosts events and workshops and retreats, another feature of something like EO is you get put into this thing called a forum when you're a member, which means you meet once a month with other entrepreneurs who serve as kind of a sounding board for you. And you know, Mark has also been part of that group. He still is for years. I was in it for 5 years. I think he's been in it for 6 or 8 now. It's huge. I think the other things that have really been valuable to me in my life is one-on-one coaching. So I've had a one-on-one coach for, I don't know, 8 years that I talk to in various degrees of various pulses, right? So sometimes where we're talking like once a week because I got a lot going on and I want someone to really be a thought partner for me. And there's sometimes where I'm talking with them a little bit less because I feel like I'm on a good trajectory and I don't need as much support. But having an outside person who's not in either of my businesses, who doesn't have a personal stake in the choices I make, who has their own experience and expertise and tools and models and questions they can ask me, has been so invaluable to me, because that means I can get a perspective that's not from someone like you that I'm working with, not with Mark Fisher, who is my business partner and best friend, not with my husband, but someone who's outside all of that, who can have an outside look on my life and my work and just have a totally different perspective, has been just so invaluable. I feel like there's so many choices I wouldn't have made if it weren't for that kind of support system in my life. Right, risks I wouldn't have taken, ways I wouldn't have challenged or leveled up myself personally if I didn't have that support. So those have been really huge for me. And let me just say the one last thing before the next question. I also just want to kind of define a few terms, right? Because I think of coaching as different than mentorship. Yeah. So for me, mentorship is specifically finding someone who's walked the path you want to walk and learning how they did it. Right, which can be huge. And we do a little bit of that in Unicorn Society. Certainly, you and me and Mark and Ben have all walked the path most of our listeners want to walk in scaling and growing a brick and mortar fitness business. So I love mentorship for that reason, because it provides you with shortcuts. Let me tell you how I did it. Just try this. This worked for me. I tried 100 things. This is the only thing I found work. Start there and see if that works for you. That's useful. But that's different than coaching. Because for me, and people who listen to this podcast know I've talked about coaching a million times, coaches don't have an agenda. Coaches don't need to have expertise in the path that you want to walk. Coaches help you clarify what you want, overcome obstacles, and commit to action, right? And that can happen regardless of what their career has been. And that kind of coaching is also valuable, right? So I think having someone in your life who's walked the path and can be a mentor is great. And also having someone in your life who can do kind of blue ocean thinking with you, right? And ask you to really, get clear on your goals, get clear on your obstacles, get clear on and stay accountable to your action steps. That's a different relationship. And I just want to say that because I find value in both. And I've had both mentors and coaches in my life. And frankly, when we designed Unicorn Society, we designed it to be a little of both because I think they're both necessary. Anything you would add to that, Pete?
I'll add that the gentleman who lectured at today's event that I attended is the founder and CEO of 2 separate businesses that currently have 8-figure valuations. Mm-hmm. And he spent significant chunks of the time in front of the room talking about his business coach today. Yep. What he learned from his business coach. And so there may be this mindset that if you have walked the walk and you have it, that you don't need a business coach anymore. Yep. And that's the opposite. If you and I stop trying to learn, it's just groupthink and we're going to get really siloed. So that's the best kind of add-on to that I can give. Yeah. Great coaches need coaches.
100%. I don't know any that don't. The same way that great trainers need great trainers and great therapists need great therapists. And right? Great people who cut people's hair need someone to cut their hair. Right? I mean, we all kind of need a support system for the work that we do. And because, ours often can be lonely at the top, right? Running a small business can be lonely. And, who is there for you? Right? You're there for everyone else. I mean, many of the people in a Unicorn Society that we talk to every day, they wear all the hats. They are the janitor, they're the marketer, they are the HR department, they are the head coach, the program designer, and they're busy supporting everyone else. And then at the end of the day, the question is, who's there for them? And that is the role that something like Unicorn Society or a coach or a mentor can play. Also, just share from the other side of this is that for the last, 3 or 4 years, I've volunteered for an organization called Next Gen HQ, which is a kind of a next generation of leaders and entrepreneurs group for young entrepreneurs in New York City. And they have an annual conference. And the thrill that I get from going to this 1-day summit, that's usually twice a year, is just so amazing because I forget as a coach and business owner, how much I know. I just forget how much I have to offer other people, especially ones that are younger or at the earlier start of their business journey, and being able to be a mentor has been so fulfilling to me. And I find when people join Unicorn Society, they have that same experience with their peers. They forget how much they've learned through their own experience that they have to offer to other people. And that's why one of the things I always say about peer coaching groups is that it's not just about learning from you and me and Mark and Ben in Unicorn Society. It's about learning from each other, because they all have years and years and years of experience, and they forget how much they've learned, that they have so much to share with each other. Have you noticed that as well?
What I've noticed, well, that for starters, but I've started to notice recently that we are collectively so hard on ourselves that we can't seem to lift the fog and realize how successful some of us are. And so I've kind of carved out this little reputation for myself within Unicorn Society as the one who's just like, hey, so-and-so just told me he did this thing this month. Holy shit.
Yep.
Like collective round of applause. And people can't possibly chime in fast enough to be like, yeah, holy shit, that is awesome.
Yep.
Teach me, tell me more. But the people, those kind of revelations that I have during these coaching calls, what I find is that they deliver them in passing, and I'm saying, whoa, back it up.
Yep.
Did you really just say that last week you closed out the best month in the history of your operation? You just spent 20 minutes telling me how you don't feel like you have a strategy, or you can't, like you've lost the path. Sometimes we just need to understand that we're our harshest critic, and that having a peer group is to make sure that we don't lose sight of the successes, because there are seasons in our business where those successes are few and far between. Yeah. And if you choose not to celebrate them in any capacity, then the distance between them is going to feel longer and longer and longer. And that's one of my favorite things about the group, is that I can find people doing things well. We always say from a management leadership standpoint, I need to get better at finding people, doing good things than finding them making mistakes. Well, as a coach to fellow gym owners, sometimes I feel like my job is to help them realize they're better than they think they are.
Yeah, you're so good at that, Pete. You're so good at it. I mean, in fact, today we had a group call for Unicorn Society today, and someone mentioned they had the best month ever in their history. And, it's because you've been reminding us, like, we should celebrate that publicly, that we're getting better and better at doing it. But I think it's an underappreciated part of being part of a peer coaching group or having a coach, is they're there not just to help you be a thought partner for the shitty stuff. They're there to also be your cheerleader. And like Pete said, remind you that you're doing probably better than you give yourself credit for on most days. That you're just being your own.
But the coolest thing about those shout outs, those shout outs, every single one of them have resulted in the party in question saying, well, everybody, here's what I did. I took these 5 steps. I did this thing, and then I did this thing, and I did this thing, and this was my playbook. If you want to use it, that would be awesome. I'd be honored. And just like you a couple minutes ago said, I'm sometimes surprised to remember or realize that I knew a lot more than I thought. Every single member of our group qualifies for that description. Every single one of them, when I say, that is amazing, tell me more, I think maybe they think it's some sort of like some canned coaching cue. But that's actually me saying, teach me, I'm taking notes.
Exactly.
And this is a two-way interaction. So if you were to ask me what is the most undervalued component of joining a group like Unicorn Society, that's it. That it's the person sitting to the left of you and to the right of you has just as much to teach you as the coaches. The coaches are probably just better at asking open-ended questions.
Yeah. I think that's 100% it. That's 100%. And it's an attitude that I feel like I probably learned in EO when I was in entrepreneur organization, was that when you go into those monthly groups with your peers, they've always talked about being both a teacher and a student in those sessions, right? And I've reiterated that 1,000,001 times in Unicorn Society now, because I think that's it. We want everyone to show up to every conversation thinking about how can I be both a teacher and a student in this moment. I'm going to share what I've learned, share from my learned experience and lessons that I've gotten from that learned experience. And I also want to ask a lot of questions, right? And like be a student and learn. And this harkens back to what you said, 10 minutes ago now, which I think this is also crucial, is that so many people that I know are not great book learners. They're not going to be able to grow and scale their business and overcome every obstacle they come up against by just reading books. Or for that matter, I'll even expand that, or just doing online courses or certs, right? oftentimes that is just the first step. Getting the knowledge is just the first step. And we all know from working with our clients, if everyone did better because they knew better, we wouldn't have jobs. Right? But knowing the right thing to do and actually executing consistently on that right strategy and learning along the way, I think that's a huge component of this. And when you're in an environment where everyone is both a teacher and a student, the goal for everyone at every moment is learning. It's not judging. It's not right. It's not comparing. Right. It's the goal for everyone is how do we all learn faster because we're in this relationship with one another, and that means executing faster. Right, like taking action so I can learn from it right away, and then we all benefit from that action we all took. And that's the thing that excites me most about groups like Unicorn Society.
Well, and it's full of people who are willing to ask challenging questions and disagree as well. I mean, the 2+ hour lunch that I attended was great. It was good to better than average. Mm-hmm. But the 35-minute drive home, where Andrew and I processed our thoughts, was far and away the most valuable part of the day.
Yep.
And in it, we got into a semi discussion / disagreement over whether his service is a commodity or a unique value prop. And it was great because we had a respectful back and forth. And I think ultimately we got to pretty much the same place as far as thinking maybe what his best, we'll say, social media strategy is moving forward based on his objectives.
Yeah.
But when we got into the car, I said, hey, when that lecturer asked everybody in the room to raise their hand if they ran a commodity business, you didn't raise your hand. I disagree with you. That didn't turn into a full-blown argument. That turned into him saying, tell me more.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of conversations that we have in this group as well. So I don't know. I'm over yes men and people telling us how great we are because we're so brutally flawed. And the people in this group will tell me when we are.
Yeah. No, it's huge. I mean, I think that, we say this, I feel like I say this all the time, but I mean, one of the things I truly believe to my core is that the teams that disagree the best grow the fastest, right? The teams that are capable of sitting with the complexity of multiple competing opinions and perspectives all in the same room at the same time. Those are the teams I want to be part of. And frankly, that's the learning environment I want to be part of. I don't want to be in an environment where everyone thinks the same and has access to the same information and the same experience. I want to be in an environment where everyone has competing, contradictory ideas about what's right and wrong, and is willing to go test those ideas and then report back so we can all learn from it. Like, that's exciting. And, and even if, listeners, I know a lot of people are listening that they don't have big teams, right? They're like maybe there's a handful of people working in their gyms at this moment. That's even more of a reason to be part of a larger group, so you get access to that thinking outside of your own team.
Sure. Would you for the audience describe what you think the avatar to be for this? Because it's an interesting discussion when I talk to people outside of Unicorn Society and they say, well, is it for single operators? Is it for one-man shows? Do you need to have a certain amount of revenue?
Yeah.
And I'm asking because it's one that I don't always answer with conviction. So I want to know what your answer to that
Totally.
one is. What is the perfect gym owner?
Well, I'll say this, that I'll tell you what it says on the website, on the landing page, but I'll tell you also what I think. So on the landing page for Unicorn Society, it says that you have to have your own physical space. Renting is, or owning, right? But having a physical space that you are operating. You have to have at least 30 clients. You have to be working full-time on or in the business. And you have to have at least one full-time employee. I think those are like the 4 or 5 just hard-nosed criteria. And the reason for that is because, this is not a group that's full of just personal trainers, renting space, and all they want to be is personal trainers, which is amazing, great goal. But the people in this group is really designed for people who want to be operators of a space where they're growing a team. So we want to make sure that criteria is checked. But I say all of that to say that's what it says on our website. And the thing that matters most to me is that people in the group are interested in sharing and learning, right? If you can come to this group and be really an open book about how your business is going and what's working and what's not working, and if you're willing to test shit and report back, if you're willing to come to coaching calls and just be ruthlessly candid about how things are going, and you want to try new ideas, and you have an action, bias for action, like those are the people I love working with the most. And frankly, I mean, even though we probably will stick to the criteria I just mentioned, I frankly personally wouldn't care if you had your own space or any employees or only 10 clients. If you can come to the table with a real thirst for learning, and you can come to the table with a bias for action, so you're willing to go test stuff and try shit and see what works and take risks, that's what excites me as a coach. Right. But I will say that for the purpose of vetting people for the group, I don't know that we would follow my gut on this. I think there probably is some value in having a specific threshold for the kind of people in the program. But yeah, what's your take on that?
So I trend more toward you need to have a lease or a mortgage. And if you're into your second lease, even better.
Yep.
Because I feel like we've aged out of the true startup stage as far as how we think. You guys are, a decade in now?
Yep.
And we are going to cross the 15-year mark in about 6 weeks in my operation. I'm certainly fascinated by the months 0 to 6 stage, but I don't think we deliver the level of value that to that group as we could someone with something a little more established that they're looking to tidy up and kind of chase the upwards trajectory of the hockey stick. So my answer is I tend to deliver better advice to a slightly more seasoned gym owner than the purely new to the game person.
I think you're 100% right. I think that's why we have to have these guidelines in place, because I think you're right that I think the thing when people ask me this in our initial phone calls, the thing I think we're best at in this group is helping people create systems in their business, right? To actually codify the standard operating procedures and systems that run the business, because that is what scaling looks like, right? If you want to scale the business, you need to turn it into a series of systems that can run, and built into those systems ideally is quality control, right, and scalability. But I think that's what we're best at. So you're right. I think people who are just getting started, we're probably not the best group for them. That this is probably for people who've been doing this for a little while, want to scale, want to grow, want to improve the efficiency. And a lot of people in the group, actually, and I think this is probably makes them an ideal client as well, is they're at the point where they want to spend a little less time working in the business and more time on the business. So a lot of our best Unicorn Society clients are people who've spent the last, 5 years working on the floor most of the time, and now they're working themselves off the floor so they can spend more time on the big picture: marketing, selling, hiring, developing their team, opening a second location, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's where I think we wind up adding the most value, is for people who are in that phase.
Yeah, and the reason I decided to jump on board with you guys is because there's a degree of integrity. Thankfully, you guys, the interview process is the beauty in this. This isn't us saying we won't take a call with someone who opened doors 10 days ago.
Yep.
Those conversations happen, but a call that I enjoy in my own operation, running Cressy Sports Performance, is the one where I say, "You're not ready, I don't want your money." Because that isn't me saying I forego this revenue until the end of time. That's me saying, I want to deliver you the best product we have, because I realize someday you're going to move on. Yep. We don't hold on to anybody forever until the end of time. And when you leave, I want you to say, you know what, they had the integrity to say, this isn't it right now. And almost every one of them, it seems, comes back eventually. And it's a long play. And I like the fact that what you and Mark started has that long play feel, because I know it resonates with me. I know it resonates with Ben. And that's why we said, all right, we are in. Because those calls are happening. But there are plenty of coaching services where it's, do you have money to spend? Yes or no?
Yep.
Can you put your credit card on file? Yes or no? If you checked yes for both of those, well, we will see you on June 1st.
You're in.
and that's just not the long vision that I have for any operation I'm aligned with. And so this is my really long way of saying, I want to have a conversation with anyone who has the slightest bit of interest, but understand that sometimes I'm going to say, no, this isn't it.
Yeah.
but here's the direction I'd suggest you go, or these are the people I talk to,
Mm-hmm.
and know that I'm going to get off of that call. I'm going to jump on my weekly, touching base with you. And I'm going to say, hey, I deflected more opportunity this week. Sorry. And I know that you're going to say, I get it. I trust you. Cool.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best of us, right? I mean, I think that's us at our best, is when we can be honest about someone who's a great fit, that we can actually add value to their life and to their business, and for someone who's not. And I hope we're also doing that in our gyms, right? As to your point, right? That's the best. I mean, not everyone is a great fit for Mark Fisher Fitness. They just really aren't, right? And so if we're not honest about that, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because we're planting seeds in our community of people who are going to be unhappy and unsatisfied, and that doesn't make for a very happy business. So yeah, I'm 100%. And I think over the years, if I did the math, there's probably almost as many people that we've turned away from Unicorn Society that we let in. Probably
Yep.
almost. I would say.
Well, I'll tell you, before I started working with you guys, I was doing my own independent work.
Yeah.
Coaching other gym owners, and a couple years back I had the privilege of working with Ben.
Mm-hmm.
and it's funny, he was my least favorite client, because every time we got on a call I felt like he was smarter than me. And it was intimidating to feel like, Ben, I feel like I don't have the value you deserve, because you've read so much, you've consumed so much, you've invested so much in yourself, that every call I have this imposter syndrome coming into it. I have no intention of upselling you beyond this 8 call cycle.
Yep.
And it's just so funny, because here I am strategizing with him weekly, exchanging text messages daily about what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And so I'm no stranger to that feeling of taking someone's money and being like, I don't know if I'm the fit. Yeah. And I think to a degree, he was the moment where I was like, I'm not doing that again. The next time I take an informational call with someone and I get the impression they list off all of the consultants they've worked with, and they tell me all of the things that went well and what they're looking to take away from it, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I got it for this person. He was that inflection point where I was like, everybody isn't a potential client for me. The certain type of people at the certain stage in their operation are a potential client for me. So
that's amazing.
It's a weird tangent, but it is a funny memory that I have. It's like PTSD every time I work with Ben as a colleague now.
I love it. I think honestly, it's a great story to end on, because I think it makes a great point overall about today's topic about peer groups and peer coaching and mentorship, is that finding the right fit is hard. Right? It's like finding the right fit in any relationship is you might have to try on a few. And so, whether we sold you today on the idea of applying for Unicorn Society, or we just sold you on the idea of going to find a coach or a peer group or a mentor to work with, just know that the first person you reach out to might not be the best fit for you. It might take you to try on a few glass slippers. Is that a Cinderella analogy? Or before you find your prince? Is that? I don't know. It's a mixed metaphor. I'm going to go with it. But I think it's a great thing to end on. And for those of you who are interested, I'm sure at some point in this podcast there's been a mini commercial of me talking. But go to businessforunicorns.com. As of this podcast launching, enrollment is now open. It only happens twice a year, and I think our early bird ends June 12th. And so if you want to have the best possible deal, go do it soon, because you'll save a ton of money if you do it before then. Awesome. Well, thanks for today's conversation, Pete. This was a great one. I think mentorship, coaching, it's so crucial to growing as business owners. So I'm so glad you brought your stories to share, because I think they're really valuable.
Happy to be here. Enjoyed the one-on-one.